Okay, so I made starting a new series on the Right to Reality channel, and it's going to be calling out the auditors. I'm going to call out a whole bunch of auditors, but I just want to mention first before I start this series that I did at least an hour and then maybe another hour and 10 minutes. I had at least a couple hours worth of videos that I did yesterday, and at the end of the day, I went to upload them, and there was only 9.46 minutes left of the videos that I did. And I'm kind of glad this morning because I did a lot of yelling and swearing, and I was really pissed off when I was doing it. Things were aggravating me. So I'm a lot calmer today. So I'm going to try to get a better start on this series. So whoever did delete it from my phone, though, is kind of funny because, and ironic, I guess. Not really funny, but ironic. You know what I mean? Because the trackers are back on me. The trackers are back on me again. So, I'm pretty sure that's who probably deleted the videos, Agencies, I just call them agents. So, I decided to call out the auditors. I was going to call out the auditors years ago. And I've been through a lot of different people, when you think about politics, medical industry. I called out quite a few people. I mean, I do a shitty job at it because I'm not really interested in entertaining anybody. So it's not really entertaining, but what I am showing you all that you can go see for yourself is the biggest thing you're ever going to see. It's it's the most important thing that any of us are ever going to see. It's going to make all of our problems go away once we all see it, because we'll no longer believe anything that they say. Again, we'll only know things. We won't believe anything anymore. We will know them because we will see them to know them, not to use our imaginations to see things, but right here in the camera, what you're looking at is what you call clouds. And I'm going to do a walk around. I'm about to fire up another camera. I'm going to leave this one aimed at the clouds. I'm going to see if I can find some video, like an hour and a half worth of video, while I take the other camera around to digitally collect electromagnetic nanocarbon from different areas, rocks, stones, trees, the clouds. And I'm going to try to do some outside stuff. I mentioned yesterday, too, that I'm going to do a pretty good job on this series. I think I'm going to try to go up to like 300 to 400 parts because there are so many good auditors that are good people that I like, that I think it's going to be a lot of fun for me to do. I'm going to start the series out to two of my favorites who are like almost opposite of each other. And I'm going to point out, which is Sean Paul from Long Island Auditing. Long Island Auditor, right? Is that it? Yeah. And then Audit the Audit is probably going to be my second one because he's really good, but he's pointing out in his videos. I noticed that he's pointing out a lot, which is great, but it's just for me. I don't know, things that I already know. I already know those laws, right? So, like if he's talking about someone breaking a law, then he'll look up 4 or 5 other laws that actually, which is great because then everybody knows where they really stand. So, in other words, people aren't going around breaking the law thinking that they're not, right? Okay, but I'm not a constitutionalist. My whole thing is, and maybe this is why the videos got deleted yesterday. I'll find out today if these get deleted as well. But okay, when they brought us the Constitution, so we have these freedoms, we have these rights, and it's on paper, and someone put it in print, and they all got together and they thought about it, and they said, these are the rights that you will have if you be what, and when that's another misconception, is that the United States is the only constitution or the best constitution. They're all about the same. I mean, it's constitutional, whether it's a communist constitution or a fucking no matter what, it's all the same. It really is. So So although I appreciate what all these auditors are doing, because they have to on their day-to-day lives, really, why would you need permission to be free? You know what I mean? So, that's what it is. I mean, why did we at one time, whatever it was, 170, 180 years ago, whenever they signed that Constitution and made it up, so they came, the same thing they did to every nationality. So they came to the Americas using us as an example. So they come to the Americas, the English, and they say to all the Indians, you sign up for our religion and you sign up for our government and everything will be fine. Right? Think about it. It's so fucking stupid. And then here we are doing the same shit all these years later. We're doing the same thing. Um, you have to take away people's rights in order to put it on paper and give it to them. That makes no fucking sense. Whoever said we did not have these rights in the first place? Why do I need to sign a piece of paper or go along with a piece of paper or present it? We the people. We the people are the problem. And a lot of the shit I was saying yesterday, I was saying it with a lot more anger, so I'll try to be calmer today. We the people are the problem. We're blaming the cops, right? The cops are people. I myself like to blame all of them. The medical industry, right? People complain about it all the time, how fucked up it is. But we, the people, watch it happen. We, the people, go along with it. We just had all that Lion Mama Kona 19 shit that took away more rights, right? Closed us all down, divided us from each other, all that shit. So that's the same thing that's happening with the police officers, all law enforcement for that matter, because a lot of it is tyrannic, different agencies, and there are way more agencies um, than what's on our tip of our brain on a daily basis. You know, we might think our local, our state, um, our federal, local federals. We might think of traffic stuff like DMVs, RMVs, all that kind of crap, right? So we think of all these in the tip of our brain, military, right? Military bases and all that shit we might think of. Yeah, hold on. And then, but the thing is, you know, it goes much deeper than that. And then you got TSA, NSA, you got all these, CIA, right? All the IIIs and all the triple letters and all those guys, right? So there's many, many more of those. And then you've got your financial law enforcements, right? You got all them guys. There's a couple dozen agents. You have your insurance investigating teams and all this kind of shit, right? So they're everywhere. It's everywhere. It's mad. It's mad. But the worst of them all is, as I'm watching this guy Sean's videos, the worst of them all meaning the biggest Karens, the biggest crybabies, the biggest entitled, and they're using the police, and I'll make that clear and obvious. We, the people, are using the police to divide each other, and right? If you think about it, because I'm watching Sean's videos, for example, a lot of people are calling in and calling in false reports, and everybody's a fucking liar. A good portion of the police are lying about everything, and a lot of citizenry is lying. The customers that are in the lobbies of these places, the ones they're all so full of shit. I don't know how this guy Sean stays so calm and collective when you can see obviously that they're all lying to each other and themselves. It's so beautiful that but one of the things I pointed out yesterday is not everybody walks around with a fucking body cam, and is that what it's coming to? Because Sean would not be able to do as good as none of these guys would if they didn't have that camera. Then we would be trampled all over, right? So that means the majority of the people out there, 99.999%, they're not walking around with cameras on them, right? So it really fucking blows. It really blows. And that's how I got myself up in a big fracas yesterday. I was talking to myself, talking to the camera, And I got myself all worked up because I'm watching these videos. It's so fucking sad. I'm sitting here and I'm fucking watching one person after another be violated. I'm looking for answers of why the numbers are so bad. Why are the numbers so fucking bad? Why is it that 60 to 70% of the agencies are a waste of taxpayers' money? Um, more than a waste, because for us, anyways, for the zombie slave, for the average zombie slave like myself, it's a huge waste of money because, and it's obvious, it's planned. You bring up the conspiracies because that's what they call them. You bring up the conspiracies that brought us to this place, and you keep going back in time. We always bring up the ones like, gee, how did the two buildings fall at free fall speed, and how, including the third building, fall at free fall speed, and defy your laws of gravity, and blah blah blah, and all this shit. Oh, that's crazy talk, will be told, right? Then you try to take them back a little further, and then you say, well, how the hell did over 600 planes with bombs travel for all those miles across waters and lands, and make it to the other side without anybody knowing, in a day of sonar, radar, all that kind of shit, right? How did that possibly happen? And we didn't know. They flew behind the mountains. Okay, well, we have radar in the mountains, in between mountains, and all that kind of shit, just for that reason, so no low flying planes could attack us. We have underwater sonar and radar technology way back then. Way fucking back then, we had that. So their answer, right? Um, how was it that the president was talking to the astronauts on a telephone at that time with a rocket right behind the fucking guy's ear as he's fucking heading into outer space? Right? No, you ask anybody those questions, and they're gonna turn around, twist their fingers around their head, and say, "Oh boy, we got one of these guys." And you get the same shit when you talk about the Constitution and our constitutional liberties and freedoms. Bullshit. We don't have no fucking liberties and freedoms. But it's nice to see that somebody fucking cares. At least there's a couple thousand out there that care. And oh my God, once we get into this, once we get into doing this, man, I mean, these videos are heart wrenching. Watched, I don't know, he must have been a 15, 16-year-old black kid yesterday. I'm pointing out he's black on purpose because it's important to the story how he was treated, because I cannot imagine any fucking buddy being treated like that. It was unbelievable to watch. And then his father showed up at the crime scene, because that's what it was. It was a crime scene at that point, because the cops is fucking scumbag. And they get everybody so fucking pissed off at the cops when everybody sees that shit. I don't know what the fuck they're thinking. They just didn't have the cameras on them all these years, so they thought they could get away with the shit. And now there's too many cameras, and they don't realize that they can't get away with it anymore. And it's sad that they even wanted to get away with it, and it's sad that the 7.8 billion zombie slaves allowed it. It all fucking sucks, man. And then the other day there was, and I'm going to play these videos too, a little bit of them, because I guess I got to follow some of YouTube's rules on this series. I'm going to have to start going on camera about, I don't know what the hell, it's 20, 30% of the time or something. Only 80% of your videos can be without you in them. Some shit like this. I don't know. That's what I'm being told by other YouTubers are coming out and complaining, saying that's why they're getting shut down. So I'm assuming it's the same with me. So, anyways, I'm gonna this won't be video number one. I'm just warming myself back up to starting a new series. I wanted to see what the hell YouTube is bitching about now on my other channels, because now they got both my other channels shut down. I don't know. I think permanently. I think. which way I'm going to run this camera. So it wasn't locked in. Alright, so yeah, I'm going to leave the blue filter on this camera, and today what I'm doing is digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from the cloud level, and then I'm taking the other camera and I'm going to go take myself for a walk and just catch the other video for that, because I'm going to be digitally collecting from rocks, stones, trees, bushes, whatever, landscapes, whatever I find on the way while I shoot the shit about the start of this series. Kind of like I did yesterday, except today is a good day for digital collection at the cloud level. So, and I'll try to get myself in front of the camera a little bit more. I don't like it. I was talking about it yesterday too. All those parts of the video got deleted. Fucking video better not stop. The thing is, there's a lot of the shit that I have to say, even though it's provable by going and looking, people won't look, and then they'll just tell me that that's crazy talk, right? That's the story of my life. It's like that with everything in my fucking life is that way. But anyways, digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon, by us putting our faces on video, camera, you name it, even the human concept of someone else, if it's not an artist that's good enough to do a mirror image, then it's not the same. It's not the same thing as what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is mirrored images. If it's a mirrored image, and then you're taking credit for the true creator's work, right? Because it's the true creator's imagery that I'm showing you right now at the cloud level. That's the imagery that it is. The triangular shapes that are making all these images. Feline, canine, rodent, ape, human, and beast are the images. Their faces only. They're everywhere. From the veil to the ground, you will find these images. And I'll show you a couple trillion, quadrillion, billion in one day today. In one day of walking around, driving, because they're all sizes. They're everywhere. You can't get away from it. It is the true creator's work. And you can see that the true creator's builders build everything in this realm. So we were told stories that the native Indians didn't like their picture taken because they claimed that we were stealing their soul when you did that. As we indoctrinated the native Indians to a certain point, then some of them finally agreed to do photographs and getting photographs, but they were right. We should not be going in front of the camera at all, really. But I'm being forced to do it now, because otherwise YouTube's going to keep saying I'm breaking their agreement rules. So I'm supposed to be on camera for a certain amount of time. It's ridiculous. I'm going to do it. But there's no need for it. Everything I'm trying to show you is all around us. And I'm wondering, I should probably test the theory of, if I have to be on camera, does it mean that my face has to be on camera? Or can I digitally collect EMMC from my body and count that as being on camera? It should be the latter. But I don't know that it is. I think they want people's faces on camera. They want, in other words, entertainment. It has to be an entertainment type thing in order to be on their platforms or something. It's strange though, because I see other videos of channels that only have a narrator. Well, I guess that's because they have a production company, I guess, or something. I don't know. I'm not going to look for the laws in that. But anyways, I'm going to call out all the auditors. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I'm hoping to get this up to a 300-400 part series. I'm going to write shit down this time. I'm going to do things a little bit better than I had before. Really like that guy, Sean. He's a nice guy. He's able to handle things really different than a lot of other people are. But he's also puts himself in a different situation than other people too. So I want to point that all out and talk about it as we go along. Because there's some people that do these audits that are pretty aggressive. At least that's what I thought when I first started watching them. Like, I thought they were purposely trying to show all police officers in a bad light. And then after watching more and more of their videos, I realized, oh my God, they just live in a place. They live in an area of Arizona that most of the police officers are bad. They're just shitty police officers, shitty chiefs, shitty mayors, shitty congressmen, shittier than the rest of us. Let's put it that way, because they're all pretty shitty, really. But they're shittier than the rest of them. But even those zombie slaves that I'm talking about, they don't know what I'm going to be trying to show you guys. They don't understand it. They don't see it. No one will go look. So I'm going to do my best to try to show it to you guys a little more clearly. Not that I'm trying to save anybody. Don't get offended. I'm not trying to steal anyone's religion. I'm trying to show you the true creator. Trying to show you the false creator slash creator. Trying to show you the builders. All these things that we can see for ourselves. We don't need anybody's permission to look. And we just have to look, and then you make your own decisions on what you see. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to nobody else on it. Why bother? Believe me, it's going to all connect. You're going to connect with the entire system once you start looking, and you'll find it easier and easier as time goes on to accept what you see. Right now, we're all living in an illusion, a delusion and illusion, and nobody wants to wake up. They blame everybody else rather than looking at ourselves for what we're doing and seeing things for what they are. We want to blame everyone else but ourselves. No honesty, no transparency. Even this guy Sean that I like so much, there's no transparency. He's looking for honesty and transparency. Even that, fuck that. Not gonna find it, because even if we ourselves are lying and we're the ones looking for truth and transparency, and then that means that truth and transparency comes down to interpretation. One man's truth and transparency is another man's lies and mischief, or whatever, whatever the opposite is.
commuter feature excellent build quality and sleek finish, but it also has a ton of features hidden within its design. The commuter can last for 7 hours on a single charge. It has a water-resistant rating of IPX7 and has a built-in microphone for taking calls. But best of all, the commuter splits into 2 speakers, giving you full stereo audio. While connected, the commuter speakers offer a 360 surround sound effect. Gently separated, the speakers convert into left and right stereo channels, which makes it perfect for going from your desk setup to your laptop or TV. Now, Code is offering members of the APA community a 67% discount when you use code AUDIT64 at checkout, or click on the link in the description. Thanks again to Code for sponsoring this episode. On November 19th, 2020, YouTuber and First Amendment auditor Cody Shear was riding his motorcycle through El Dorado County in Middle Eastern California when he was stopped by Officer Bliss at the California Highway Patrol.
Turn the radio down.
See your driver's license, registration, and insurance plate.
So what do you pull me over for?
The GoPro on your helmet.
The GoPro on my helmet.
Yeah, the fixture mounting for that, right? You're not allowed to have that on your helmet. You can't have anything protrude more than 2 millimeters off the surface of the helmet.
That's a crime?
It's not a crime, it's an infraction.
Okay, so you pulled me over for a non-crime?
It's an infraction, it's a moving violation. You can't have anything on your helmet or compromises the integrity. Can I have the information I asked you for, please?
Actually, sir, I mean, the fact that you pulled me over for a traffic violation of a GoPro on the top of my helmet, which is for my safety, it's kind of ridiculous. I will not be consenting to anything. So
Okay.
if you need to get a sergeant out here, that'd be great. But
What's your name?
did I commit a crime?
I've stopped you for a traffic violation.
Okay.
I've asked you for your information. You're refusing to give it to me.
I'm not refusing to give it to you. It's just I did not commit a crime. And you pulled me over for a GoPro on my helmet,
And it's a traffic violation.
which is for my safety.
Okay. Do you understand what I stopped
What's
you
your name and badge number? Bliss, what's your badge number?
for? You answer my question, and I'll
What
answer
is,
yours.
what is
okay?
your badge number, sir?
Will you answer my questions?
I'm cooperating so far. I
No,
pulled
you're
her
not.
over
You have not produced your driver's license. You have not produced your registration.
because
have
you
not produced
pulled
your
me
insurance.
over for not a crime. And in fact, it's the stupidest thing you can pull me over for is that freaking camera.
Is speeding a crime?
A camera
Is
on
speeding
my
a,
helmet.
Is speeding a crime?
A camera on my helmet, sir.
Answer my question. Is speeding a
I'm not
crime?
answering any more questions. I'd like to speak to my lawyer.
Can I have your information, please?
You can get your sergeant.
Sit tight. Officer Bliss informs Mr. Shear that he was stopped because of the camera that is mounted on his helmet, and Mr. Shear insists that it is not against the law. But the legality of mounting foreign objects to a motorcycle helmet is somewhat vague and varies from location to location. There are 19 states which have drafted laws requiring the use of helmets while riding motorcycles, while 28 other states have partial laws on the books. And in Illinois, Iowa, and New Hampshire, helmets are not required at all. Given that the landscape of helmet regulation is particularly diverse, it is safe to assume that cities and codes may also have local rules and regulations that establish different requirements. California Vehicle Code 27802 grants the California Department of Motor Vehicles the ability to adopt reasonable regulations establishing specifications and standards for helmets that are sold in California. And the code cites Section 571.218 of the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards as the minimum standard by which helmets should be constructed and used. Subsection 5.5 of the Federal Code states that a helmet shall not have any rigid protections inside its shell, and that rigid protections outside any helmet shell shall be limited to those required for operation of essential accessories, and shall not protrude more than 5 millimeters. This is likely the code Officer Bliss is using for the basis of his stop. However, subsection 1 defines the scope of the code to apply specifically to the helmets as they are designed by the manufacturer. This suggests that the code has no authority over what a private citizen does to a helmet once it is designed and sold by the manufacturer. Subsection 3 reiterates this argument by plainly stating that this standard applies to all helmets designed for use by motorcyclists and other motor vehicle users. It is clear that this code is intended for manufacturers because it is primarily dedicated to highly specific safety regulations and testing standards that are applied during the design and development of helmets, such as impact attenuation testing and helmet positioning indexing. It appears as though Officer Bliss is attempting to enforce the authority of a code that only applies to manufacturers. And after failing to convince Mr. Shear to comply, the officer returned to his patrol car for a brief moment before confronting Mr. Shear again. I just want to let you know that I'm also recording
stop.
Of course
And
you
I've
are.
asked you numerous times for your information, and you're refusing to do so.
I'm not refusing. If I committed a crime, I would absolutely give you my ID.
All right. You've been stopped for a traffic violation,
I got stopped for a GoPro on my helmet.
and I've told you it's a traffic violation.
That's a violation. So go ahead and get your sergeant here.
Okay, I've told you it's a violation, so you're still refusing to produce your information.
If
When
you
you've been
can
informed that you-
articulate a crime that I have committed, I will ID. Until then, I do not have to ID. And in fact, this is a violation of my Fourth Amendment right, and I am now invoking Title 18, Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. If you do one more movement without getting your sergeant here, you're
Here, Mr. Scheer informs Officer Bliss that he is invoking Title 18, Section 242, and that the officer should be wary of his actions moving forward. Title 18 of the United States Code serves as the central criminal code for the federal government and covers both federal crimes and the federal criminal procedure. Section 242 of Title 18 is the federal code that criminalizes the act of willfully depriving a person of a
Where you
right
been?
or privilege protected by the Constitution or other laws while acting under the color of any law. The phrase color of law includes acts not only done by federal, state, or local officials within their lawful authority, but also acts done beyond the bounds of that official's authority if the official is pretending to act in the performance of their duties. The code is designed to protect citizens from government officials and punish those officials whose misconduct results in a deprivation of rights or suffering. Section 242 originated from Section 2 of the Civil Rights Act of 1866, and although the code has been amended and moved around the codebook several times, its core principles remain relatively unchanged. Under the current version of the code, violations of Section 242 are punishable by everything from fines to the death penalty, depending on the severity of the crime. To secure a criminal conviction under Section 242, the plaintiff must establish three elements. 1. The defendant acted under color of law. 2. The defendant acted willfully. And 3. The defendant deprived the victim of rights under the Constitution or federal law, or subjected the victim to different punishments on account of the victim's race, color, or alien status. It is important to note that Section 242 provides no private right of enforcement, meaning that victims of official misconduct cannot sue under the code, but may seek civil recourse through a different statute. Victims of police misconduct who wish to file criminal charges against an officer under Section 242 must also file a claim under Section 1983 of Title 42 if they are seeking compensation for the officer's acts along with criminal prosecution. Given that Section 242 is an established and clearly defined code, it is not necessary to invoke its authority during a stop. But there is also likely no harm done in acknowledging its existence, as Mr. Scheer has demonstrated.
You hear me?
Did you hear me? Get your sergeant here. Get your. I'm
I'm
done speaking to you. I
I'm
told you
explaining-
I am done talking. I am now invoking my Fifth Amendment right to stay silent.
If
Thank
you
you.
fail to produce your information,
Then what? You're gonna
you're in
arrest me?
jeopardy of being
So that'd be
placed under
kidnapping,
arrest.
and I already invoked Title 18, Section
How is
242.
that kidnapping?
You'll find that out in court,
You're
sir.
failing to identify
You'll
to
find that
myself.
out in
Are
court.
you familiar with
Are you getting your sergeant?
Are you familiar with Section Penal Code
Are
148?
you not listening to a lawful order?
Are you listening
Call
to my
your
lawful order?
sergeant.
Are
You
you
are
lis-
not. This traffic stop is unlawful, especially since I told you this is a violation of my Fourth Amendment right,
Okay,
and you pulled me over for a GoPro.
which I told you is a traffic
Okay,
violation.
well, I'm going to stay right here, and I'm staying silent.
Okay.
Until I speak to my lawyer,
Do
and
you
you get
really
your
want to
sergeant.
go to jail?
Do you not want to get your sergeant?
I've called him.
Okay,
Okay,
good. Well,
and I'm
I'm
asking-
staying silent until he's here and I talk to him.
Okay.
Bliss, please step away from me with your badge, your gun, and your fake costume. I'll be right here.
Officer Bliss returns to his patrol car, and deputies from the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office arrive on the scene minutes later. After two of the deputies fail to reason with Mr. Scheer for several minutes, El Dorado County Sergeant Lee arrives on the scene.
Morning, sir. Morning.
Morning.
What's going on?
So it was a great day.
Okay.
Okay, I was just out enjoying my day, and I got pulled over for having a GoPro on my phone.
Okay.
Okay, and so I let Bliss know that this is a violation of my Fourth Amendment right. The fact that I was just traveling, I was following all the rules and laws of the road, and traffic safety, and nothing. And then he gets behind me and pulls me over for a GoPro, and tries to tell me that that's a violation of whatever code. What safety code? What does it even matter? What if I had a fin on my helmet? What if I put my visor up? Is that now a violation of the traffic code? Like, look how close my visor is to being as high as my GoPro. What violation, what crime have I committed? Please tell me.
Okay, so you're in violation of California Vehicle Code, which says you can't have that mounted on your helmet.
Okay, so can you
It's as
tell me
simple
what
as
code
that.
that is?
Pardon?
What code is that?
Pardon? I don't know what code it is.
Okay, look that up and also
But
tell me what crime I
regardless-
committed.
Regardless, it's an infraction.
Okay,
It's like speed.
and I'll see him in court.
Correct.
That's Absolutely. And it's
your
going to be a
we
fun
need
day in
your-
court. Make sure you're ready for a full day, buddy.
Right, and we need your information. So I need your
I
driver's
have not
license,
committed a
registration,
crime. A crime. Do you know what a crime is?
You understand what we're saying? We just
I
need
see.
your
I understand.
information.
Is what I just did a misdemeanor or a felony?
It's an infraction.
Exactly.
Infraction.
There's no crime in an infraction. Therefore,
So
I have
we
no
need
reason.
to have your driver's license so we can identify
here's the
you
thing.
and write
I
all
technically
that stuff
don't even
down
need
on
this
there.
license plate.
Okay.
I don't even need a driver's license. Okay, it's the Fourth Amendment. This is my property on public roads, and I'll make sure you understand that in court. Okay, my lawyer will definitely make sure you understand that. But when I'm pulled over, if I haven't committed a crime, I do not have to ID. He shouldn't even be pulling me over unless it's a crime. And I understand you guys have a job, and you're not used to being told that. But some people do know their rights.
Mr. Shear tells the officers that he would identify himself if he were suspected of a crime, and implies that an infraction is not a crime. Most states recognize 3 distinct categories of criminal charges, and California is no exception. The most serious crimes are known as felonies, and they typically carry a sentence of greater than 1 year of imprisonment. Felony charges generally involve acts of violence or grand theft. Misdemeanors are less serious than felonies, and the punishment for misdemeanor violations depends upon the seriousness of the crime. Misdemeanors carry a sentence of up to 1 year in jail along with applicable fines, and may result in additional punishments such as a license suspension. Infractions are the least serious crimes and are not punishable by jail time. However, because infractions carry no risk of incarceration, citizens are not entitled to legal representation or a trial by jury. Infractions are usually punishable via a fine, but citizens may also receive community service depending on the violation. Common examples of infractions include traffic tickets, noise ordinance violations, and jaywalking. Some statutes can be charged as either an infraction or a misdemeanor at the prosecutor's discretion. These laws are typically referred to as WOBLETs. The Supreme Court has routinely recognized that officers have the authority to stop and investigate citizens who they reasonably suspect have committed an infraction or any other crime. And California has drafted specific laws regarding the enforcement of infractions. California Penal Code 19.7 states that all provisions of law relating to misdemeanors shall apply to infractions, including but not limited to powers of peace officers, jurisdiction of courts, periods for commencing action, and for bringing a case to trial and burden of proof. This code essentially grants California officers the ability to enforce infractions with the same degree of authority as misdemeanors. So if Officer Bliss had stopped Mr. Shear for a legitimate infraction, then he would be required to present his identification and follow all the standard protocols for any other police interaction. And although this stop is likely invalid, it would still be in Mr. Shear's best interest to comply with the officers now and dispute the stop later in court.
Okay, I'm one of those very few
So
people.
are you not going to give us your ID or anything?
Okay, so you're gonna threaten me with jail?
I just asked you a question.
Would I go to jail if I don't ID?
Did you go to jail?
Yeah. Are you gonna arrest me? Is this a threat of arrest if I don't ID?
I'm asking you, are you going to give us your ID?
And I'm asking you, am I gonna be taken to jail if I don't
Why do
ID?
you keep asking a question with a question? He asked you a question. Answer the question.
You are my servant. I am not your. Okay. I'm just asking you a question. Before I answer a question, are you threatening me
I'm not
with
threatening you at
arrest?
all. I want to know whether
No,
you're going to
with
provide us with
an
your
arrest.
identification so he can fill out his citation so that we can give you a summons to go to court so then you can come to court and then talk to the judge about it.
You know how easy it is for him to just put his tail between his legs and say, "Take that off your helmet." So what happens? What I'm asking is, what happens if I don't give you the ID?
Well, we need to satisfactorily identify you.
Okay. For
So
what?
we can do that right there,
Uh huh.
okay?
Uh-huh.
Or you can go in, run your fingerprints, and do all that kind of good stuff.
So you are threatening me with arrest,
I'm not threatening you with
booking,
anything.
with
I'm asking
booking,
you to
putting
give
me in the
your
back,
ID so
probably
we
putting
can take care
handcuffs
of our
on me.
business. Will you provide us with your
So,
identification?
am I being detained right now?
Will you provide us with your... Yes, you're being
Okay, so I'm being detained.
Yes.
I'm being threatened with an arrest.
not being threatened.
Oh, booking. I'm being threatened with being booked. Okay, by is it Sergeant?
Yes.
Sergeant Lee,
Yes.
because of tyrannical bliss. I'm gonna hand this over.
Thank you.
There you go. Identify who you already have identified, and I'll see you in court.
After surrendering his ID and delivering a few choice words to Officer Bliss, Mr. Shear was cited for motorcycle safety, and the officers eventually left the scene without further incident. Mr. Shear told me that he intends to file complaints against the officers, and he is still waiting for his citation to appear in the state's registry. He also told me that he intends to take legal action against the officers, but but he is waiting to see whether the ticket is actually filed or not. If you would like to stay up to date on Mr. Shear's story, then I highly recommend following his YouTube channel, which is linked in the description below. Overall, Officer Bliss and the El Dorado deputies get a C-, because although they were relatively courteous and peaceful, the officers displayed a fundamental misunderstanding of the law and detained and cited Mr. Shear for a code that applies to helmet manufacturers, not private citizens. Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers the lawful orders by police officers, the vagueness doctrine, and probable cause, and is brought to us by Rolando Bass's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I would like to invite you all to check out the ATA Patreon page, where you can find uncensored, ad-free, and exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. On the morning of December 10th, 2019, in Frederick, Maryland, Deputy Sufyan Labe of the Frederick County Sheriff's Department and his partner pulled over YouTuber Rolando Bass for allegedly failing to stop at a red traffic signal before making a right turn. After being pulled over, Mr. Bass partially rolled down his car window and prepared to hand over his license and registration. The officers approached the rear of Mr. Bass's vehicle and ordered him to roll down his window.
No, I'd rather not put my window down.
Window down now.
He yelling.
Roll your windows down now.
I refuse to put my window down.
Roll your windows down.
I'm not.
Open the door.
No.
Open the door.
No. What you jumping? What you grabbing my for? Why you grabbing my doors like that?
What are you doing? Open the door.
No.
Roll down that window so he can talk to you.
My window is down so he can talk to me. It's not my fault he's scared to approach. You got guns. You got your hands on guns and you expect me to just... Nah, that's crazy. Nah, man. Y'all sitting here looking like y'all ready to shoot me. You mad because I won't roll the window down some more? Come up here. You just walked up here. Why is he scared to walk up here? That's... Man, get out of here. Now you don't got no problem walking up here.
What are you doing, man?
What are you doing, bro? You got... Bro, I was about to roll my window down and I sit there. You put your window down with your
You know
gun
how
in
many
your
times
head.
I asked you before I even went for my gun?
Oh, well.
What is the problem with
Is it a lawful order?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Deputy Labe insists that his demands that Mr. Bass roll down his car window constituted a lawful order. As we have discussed many times on ATA, there is no specific legal requirement that citizens roll down the windows of their vehicles more than necessary to facilitate communication. However, Section 21-103 of the Transportation Article of the Maryland Code states that an individual may not willfully disobey any lawful order or direction of any police officer. The statute does not define what constitutes a lawful order or direction, and courts have been silent on the issue, so it is unclear whether Deputy Labe's order to roll down the window was actually lawful. The law is clear that police officers have the authority to order drivers and passengers out of a vehicle during a traffic stop. In the 1977 case of Pennsylvania versus Mims, the U.S. Supreme Court determined that police officers may lawfully order drivers to step out of the vehicle during a legal traffic stop. Although I have routinely noted that there is no legal precedent or law that compels citizens to roll their window down, there is still a serious possibility that a court might determine that Deputy Labe's order to roll down the window was lawful. In most situations, there is not a strong argument that rolling down a car window all the way serves officer safety. However, in this situation, the officers claimed they could not see inside the vehicle due to the window tint, which could be perceived as a threat to officer safety by a court. Because the intrusion of rolling down a window further is even more minimal than getting out of the vehicle, it is possible a court could decide that the order to roll down the window was lawful when weighed against the officer's safety concerns. No cases have challenged the legitimacy of such an order, and although there are no laws against such an act, that does not mean that a court would rule in favor of the citizen. The odds of a case making it to the Supreme Court based on whether the order to roll down a window is lawful are very low, and a decision like this would likely be left to lower courts to determine. Each court may reach vastly different conclusions based on a variety of factors, such as the historical rulings of the court, the local cultural differences, and the circumstances of the situation being challenged. Although it is highly unlikely that a court would uphold an arrest of a citizen for simply failing to roll their window down, these situations call into question the validity of the lawfulness of such an order.
What lawful order is it?
I'm giving you an order to roll your windows
And how is that
In the
lawful?
We cannot
vehicle,
see in here.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
You're trying to
you're
protect
making a
ourselves.
stop that would have
I'm
been
trying to
avoided.
protect myself. I'm trying to protect myself, bro.
How are you doing that by not
Hey,
rolling
bruh.
the windows down?
I ain't even see y'all
Driver's
behind me.
license registration.
Here you go. You want to answer that question you
Driver's license
asked, or you want to cut yourself off and me off while I'm
Driver's
asking you a
license
question?
registration.
Oh, all right. Here you go. It's been ready for you the whole time.
Playing games for no reason.
You're not playing any
Yeah,
games.
you are.
No, I'm not.
It's a simple command. Roll your windows down just so I can make sure that I don't have any threats coming up to the vehicle.
All right, well,
Come on.
I ain't like
And
your
you
approach.
saying that
I ain't
you're
like your
trying to
approach.
protect. How are you protecting yourself by not doing a simple order?
Bruh, I feel like I should have pulled off.
That's a bad idea.
Hey, I don't give a if that keep me alive, bro. You putting your hands on your bro. I had 2 men with guns at the back of my car telling me to roll my window down.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense for me to just do it.
Because
I
we
should have
can't
pulled
see
over.
inside of the car.
That's not my problem. It's not illegal for me to have my window up. You a cop, you should know that.
When I give you the commands, I need you to follow them. Turn the vehicle off.
You asking me to step out of the car?
Not yet. I'm telling you to turn the vehicle off. Put that out for me. Is your door open?
No, it's not.
You need to do that for me right now.
Are you pulling me out the car?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. You should have said that before. Just talking to me like I'm
Keep that rolling, but it's not going to be in your hand.
In the process of commanding Mr. Bass to step out of the vehicle, Deputy Labe orders Mr. Bass to put out his cigarette and to not keep his GoPro camera in his hand. As with the order to roll down the window, it is unclear whether these orders are lawful. The uncertainty regarding what constitutes an unlawful order is not unique to Maryland. In fact, even though most states have a statute that requires citizens to obey the lawful orders of police officers, state laws, federal regulations, and court decisions generally fail to provide definitions of what constitutes a lawful order during a traffic stop. The need to clarify the meaning of a lawful order received national attention in 2015 when a 28-year-old African-American woman named Sandra Bland was arrested after refusing to put out her cigarette at a Texas state trooper's request, which the trooper insisted was a lawful order. Ms. Bland died by apparent suicide in a jail cell 3 days later. Section 542.501 of the Texas Transportation Code states that an individual may not willfully fail or refuse to comply with a lawful order or direction of a police officer. As with the Maryland statute, the Texas law does not define what constitutes a lawful order. Because of the lack of certainty about the meaning of a lawful order, some criminal defendants have argued that similar statutes are unconstitutionally vague. As explained by the U.S. Supreme Court in the 2015 case of Johnson versus United States, the vagueness doctrine is based in the right to due process. The government violates due process when it takes away someone's life, liberty, or property under a criminal law so vague that it fails to give ordinary people fair notice of the conduct it punishes, or so standardless that it invites arbitrary enforcement. It would seem, given the confusion over what constitutes a lawful order, that these statutes would be unconstitutional under the vagueness doctrine. However, courts that have reviewed this issue have generally disagreed. For example, in the 2006 case of State versus Illigren, the Oregon Supreme Court rejected an argument that Section 162.247 of the Oregon Revised Statutes, which criminalizes refusing to obey a lawful order by a peace officer, was unconstitutionally vague. The defendant argued that the statute failed to give fair warning because determining the lawfulness of the peace officer's order requires sophisticated legal analysis and depends on the factual circumstances and conduct giving rise to the order. The court disagreed, concluding that the ordinary citizen must be presumed to know and understand the general parameters of the term lawful order. The lack of clarity regarding lawful order statutes often requires citizens to guess which police orders they must comply with and which orders they do not have to follow. This encourages blind obedience to police commands and creates a highly volatile environment where a small disagreement or misunderstanding can quickly escalate into a deadly situation like Sandra Bland's. Until the government takes action to clarify the extent of police officers' authority to lawfully command citizens, unnecessary escalations in police encounters will continue to occur.
keep rolling. It's not going to be in my hand. All right, I'm back.
Unlock the door now, please.
I'll give it to you in a sec.
Airlock is now. I'm giving you commands. I need you to listen to them. Are you clear?
Yo, what's the commands, man? I got shit to do. What's up?
Cool. Interlock your fingers behind your head.
After After extracting Mr. Bass from his vehicle, the deputies conduct a Terry frisk and order Mr. Bass to stand near their patrol car while they conduct a search of his vehicle. While waiting for the officers to finish their search, Mr. Bass engages in dialogue with a backup deputy who arrived late to the scene.
Nah, well, when they you weren't there with the way they approached my car. So that's what set the tone for me.
This is my first interaction with you.
That's cool, but it's your first interaction after a reaction with your man. So it is what it is. I'm pissed off. It is what it is. I understand you being real respectful. My bad. You being real respectful and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I haven't done nothing illegal since his whole stop.
Well,
So I don't care if he feels a certain way and he's stepping it up. I haven't done nothing illegal. I don't answer questions. That's my right. I didn't roll my window down. It's my right. And that's how I'm doing it.
Marijuana is not illegal. It's decriminalized in Maryland. I know you got Virginia tags. That's what I was asking you. Where are you from, man?
It ain't nothing illegal in my car. I told you that.
You don't want to answer questions. I'm gonna explain to you what's going on, okay? So in Maryland, marijuana is decriminalized. Anything under 10 grams is considered a civil citation. Anything over 10 is criminal. I'm very aware of that. You have odor of marijuana in your vehicle, so he's gonna find out. And that's why I asked, is there anything else in the car that we need to know about? But you told me you didn't want to answer questions.
The officers claim to smell an odor of marijuana in Mr. Bass's car and use the odor to justify a search of his vehicle. Although Maryland decriminalized the personal possession of fewer than 10 grams of marijuana in 2014, it is still a civil offense to possess an amount under that threshold. It also remains a crime to possess an amount over this threshold, possess any amount with the intent to distribute it, or drive while under the influence of marijuana. This partial decriminalization of marijuana has led to a series of decisions by the Court of Appeals of Maryland, which is the highest court in the state, that flesh out when police officers can use the odor of marijuana as a justification for a search, seizure, or arrest post-decriminalization. For example, in the 2017 case of Robinson versus State, the court determined that a law enforcement officer has probable cause to search a vehicle based on an odor of marijuana emanating from the vehicle, reasoning that marijuana in any amount was still an illegal substance, and therefore, the odor of marijuana gives rise to probable cause to believe that the vehicle contains contraband or evidence of a crime. However, in the 2020 case of Lewis versus State, the same court concluded that the mere odor of marijuana emanating from a person rather than a vehicle, without more, does not provide the police with probable cause to support an arrest and a full-scale search of the arrestee. While this evidence would give the police probable cause to search a vehicle, the court reasoned that because individuals have a heightened expectation of privacy in their person as compared to their automobile, the arrest and search in the Lewis case were not justified. As marijuana is legalized and decriminalized across the country, state courts will have to work out how this change in status will impact the rights of citizens. In the meantime, it will remain unclear to both officers and citizens what level of authority officers have to police marijuana possession, and at what point they have overstepped their bounds.
If I would,
So based on the odor, he's gonna search the car. He's gonna pat you down.
let me ask you a question. If I were to answer your question,
It makes it a lot easier.
no, you would have still searched my car. That's okay. So what do I? You said so. If I didn't answer the question, so you're searching the car.
Yeah.
You guys gonna do this anyway. I'm gonna make you do your job. It's just that simple. I'm not answering any questions, and that's fine. I appreciate you being very professional while you dealing with me. But other than that, the way he acting, I'm set off. So he stepped it up, I'm gonna step it up.
After searching the vehicle, the officers do not find any illegal substances or weapons, and Deputy Labbe returns to his patrol car to begin writing Mr. Bass's citation. After a brief debate about whether Mr. Bass can film Deputy Labbe while he writes the citation, the deputy exits his patrol car to hand over the ticket.
What you got for me? And what's your name? Okay, that's cute. All right. What you got? There you go. That's your copy. Do you want to take it or not? Seriously, stop. You want to take this? Can you hold it still so I can read it? Because you ain't explaining it to me, which is the professional way to do it. That's protocol. Oh, failure to stop it. Oh, let's do this. All right. Good luck proving that one. You have a good day. Thank you very much.
After searching the vehicle and finding no marijuana, Officer Labbe issued Mr. Bass a traffic citation for failure to stop at a red traffic signal and failure to stop at a red traffic signal before a right turn. The citation was filed in the Frederick County District Court the next day. Mr. Bass challenged the citation but was ultimately found guilty on February 18, 2020 and was assessed a $115.50 fine. Overall, Deputy Labe and the other Frederick County deputies get a B+, because although they remained within their authority throughout the encounter, Deputy Labe maintained a hostile and condescending attitude, and failed to employ any measure of de-escalation even when Mr. Bass offered him the opportunity to do so. When the deputies explained to Mr. Bass that they could not see inside his vehicle because of his tint, Mr. Bass shifted his attitude and understood why the deputies were concerned. But instead of capitalizing on the opportunity to de-escalate, Deputy Labe continued to be rude and confrontational. The deputy's attitude only made this interaction more difficult by influencing Mr. Bass to be less cooperative. And as we have seen on many episodes of ATA, this type of behavior has the potential to escalate any interaction into an unnecessary physical altercation. The deputies carried out a legitimate search and never placed Mr. Bass into handcuffs, and nothing they did was outside the bounds of their authority. As mentioned before, it is debatable whether Deputy Labe's order to roll down the window was law. And given that there are no laws or court cases to draw any conclusions from, it is difficult to fault the deputies for issuing such an order. In situations where the citizen refuses to roll down their window, officers are well within their authority to extract the citizen from the vehicle, and Deputy Labe could have employed the MIMS ruling more effectively, instead of using Mr. Bass's refusal to comply as a catalyst to escalation. Ultimately, Mr. Bass was allowed to go free with a relatively minor citation, but there is no doubt that Deputy Labe would benefit from additional de-escalation and sensitivity training. Mr. Bass gets an A-, because although he could have exercised his right to remain silent more effectively, he remained calm and collected throughout the encounter, maintained a respectable balance between exercising his rights and complying with the deputy's orders, and refused to allow the deputy to intimidate or insult him. Mr. Bass carried himself well, and did not allow the deputy's attitude to escalate the encounter. Based purely on this interaction alone, it appears that Mr. Bass has a thorough understanding of both his civil rights and the laws of his state, and he demonstrated that knowledge by knowing which orders to comply with and which orders to challenge. As mentioned before, Mr. Bass offered the deputies an opportunity to de-escalate the interaction, and his lack of compliance stemmed largely from Deputy Labe's attitude. Much like the deputies, I cannot fault Mr. Bass for refusing to roll down his window because there's no legal standard which compels him to do so. And without a court ruling on this interaction in particular, the legality of Deputy Labe's orders will remain inconclusive. I commend Mr. Bass for not allowing his emotions to dictate the outcome of this encounter and for having the awareness to begin recording immediately. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the ATA Patreon page for more police interaction content.
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers identification laws, obstructing justice, and civilian rights, and comes to us from the Southern Illinois Public Observers channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I would like to welcome all of you to the year 2021, and I thought I would narrate the first script of the new year just to kick things off on the right foot. The ATA narrator will return in the next episode, but so many of you have requested to hear the old voice of ATA, so this episode is dedicated to all of you. I would like to invite you all to check out the ATA Patreon page, where I post ad-free and uncensored episodes of ATA, along with a ton of other content that you can't find on YouTube. I plan to post on Patreon much more often in 2021, and I would love to see you all there. Now let's dive right in and audit the interaction. On March 8th, 2020, Centralia, Illinois resident Aaron Flanagan was riding along 13th Street in Centralia when he and his daughter discovered an intoxicated man lying near a railroad crossing. Mr. Flanagan's daughter immediately called 911, and the two waited there for help to arrive. Officer Billy White of the Centralia Police Department arrived on the scene moments later.
I don't know what happened. We was driving by, the man's laying here. We said somebody hit him with a car. He's obviously been drinking, but he needs some help, so I didn't want to leave until somebody got here.
I appreciate you.
And when you came here, you didn't see anybody else around, or?
No, there was a white vehicle on the tracks, and I think they saw him about the same time we did.
Okay.
But they went on.
But you didn't see a vehicle around or anything like that? Okay. Why don't you guys go ahead and pull up to give room for the ambulance?
We're going to go on. We just wait.
Well, I need your information real quick. Just your information real quick. Give me 1 second. Can you just pull the vehicle up for a second?
Not my car.
Jesus Christ. Give me your IDs and I'll run it now. Everybody's on rocket science. You got your ID on you?
It's not my car.
You have your ID on
No,
you.
I do not. Why are you yelling at me whenever I'm
Because you're not listening. You're not listening. I'm trying to get the ambulance here so we can get off the railroad
And
tracks.
we're going home.
I need your ID.
I don't have an ID.
What's your name?
I'm not giving it to you.
I'm gonna put your hands behind your back. I'm gonna arrest you.
Officer White first demands to see Mr. Flanagan's ID. When Mr. Flanagan says he does not have his ID, Officer White demands his name. Mr. Flanagan refuses to provide his name, and Officer White arrests him. Section 5107-14 of Chapter 725 of the Illinois Compiled Statutes gives police officers the authority to demand an individual's name when the officer reasonably infers from the circumstances that the person is committing, is about to commit, or has committed a criminal offense. Officer White did not have the authority to demand Mr. Flanagan's name under this statute because there was no evidence that Mr. Flanagan was involved in criminal activity. Section 531-4.5 of Chapter 720 of the Illinois Compiled Statutes states that an individual commits the Class A misdemeanor of obstructing identification if he or she intentionally or knowingly furnishes a false or fictitious name to a peace officer when the peace officer has good cause to believe the citizen is a witness to a criminal offense. Mr. Flanagan did not violate this statute because he did not give a false name. He simply refused to provide his name. Even if Mr. Flanagan had intentionally provided a false or fictitious name, a court would likely conclude that Officer White did not have good cause to believe that Mr. Flanagan witnessed a crime. As explained by the Illinois 2nd District Appellate Court in the 2019 case of People v. Espinillo Juarez, good cause is the functional equivalent of probable cause. As we've discussed many times on ATA, probable cause only exists when the facts and circumstances warrant a reasonable belief that a crime has been committed. In this situation, Mr. Flanagan tells the officer that he didn't see anything and that when he arrived, the potentially injured individual was already lying on the side of the road. While the individual claimed to have been hit by a car, he was intoxicated, and the video does not show any immediate apparent evidence that he had been hit. It would be more than a stretch for a court to conclude that these facts and circumstances warranted a reasonable belief that Mr. Flanagan had witnessed a crime.
And let's make everything difficult, please. You want to go sit in the county jail because you want to be an idiot.
I don't have an ID on me. Just like
No, you don't want to give me your name, so you said arrest you. So good Lord. Let's make it difficult. Makes sense.
I want to see the supervisor.
Put him in your car. Pat him down and put him in your car. Yes, you have. Obstructing justice.
When Mr. Flanagan asks if he has committed a crime, Officer White tells him that he committed the crime of obstructing justice. Section 531-4 of Chapter 720 of the Illinois Compiled Statutes states that an individual obstructs justice when intending to prevent the apprehension or obstruction of the prosecution or defense of any citizen, he or she knowingly destroys, alters, conceals, or disguises physical evidence, plants false evidence, furnishes false information, induces a witness having knowledge material to the subject at issue to leave the state or conceal himself or herself, or leaves the state or conceals himself or herself when possessing knowledge material to the subject at issue. Nothing in this statute comes close to describing Mr. Flanagan's behavior or his apparent intent. Section 531-1 of Chapter 720 creates a separate offense for resisting or obstructing a peace officer. A citizen commits this offense if he or she knowingly resists or obstructs a peace officer's performance of any authorized act within his or her official capacity. Because Officer White did not have the authority to demand Mr. Flanagan's name, Mr. Flanagan did not resist or obstruct Officer White's performance of an authorized act when he refused to provide his name. Finally, Section 531-8 of Chapter 720 criminalizes the act of refusing to aid an officer. This statute only applies if a citizen refuses or knowingly fails to reasonably aid a police officer in apprehending an individual the officer is authorized to apprehend, or in preventing an individual from committing an offense. Outside of the specific circumstances described in this statute, individuals generally are not required to assist police officers in conducting investigations.
Yeah, I mean, we're just trying to help. And the guy's yelling at me. That's what's the matter with the police force nowadays, man.
Well, let's get this figured out.
I did absolutely nothing but call to help this guy out, and I'm sitting here in cuffs. That's all I did.
Well, what happened? What happened
I don't
there?
know. We pulled up, and the guy's laying in the middle of the road, so we called 911. Asking me for ID, which I told him I do not have, and I haven't been suspected of committing a crime.
What's your name?
It's Aaron.
Okay.
But there's absolutely no reason to ID me when I haven't done anything. I'm just trying to help a guy.
Whenever you called about it, did you?
I didn't even call.
Oh.
The daughter called. I was out there with the man, making sure he was all right.
Okay.
Did nothing, man. And then I'm sitting in cuffs because your guys. That's why. I want your supervisor out here, by the way. Get your
He's out here.
All right. That's why people record this stuff. You know that, right?
Who is this guy to you, ma'am? Who is he to you?
He's my dad.
Why is he acting like this when I'm trying to get people off the railroad tracks for safety reasons?
Sir, I'm sorry.
I just need to know who we are. That's all I'm doing. I just asking him for his name, and he don't want to give it to
We
me.
were just trying to get this man some help.
Ma'am, I appreciate that, but at the same time, why cause one problem when we're trying to fix another? You know what I'm saying? Century, copy 28 of a witness. Aaron, wait. Aaron, listen, if you want to see, I'll send you to the county jail. I'm asking for your cooperation here.
For what?
I've got squad cars on the railroad tracks. I'm trying to get them off of it because you don't want to listen. I'm asking for your cooperation, and you don't want to give it to me.
All my cooperation was calling and getting this man some help.
Okay, so we're going to cause another problem by not clearing the railroad tracks? I'm asking you to pull forward.
Not my car.
And then I'm asking for your name so you guys can get out of here so we
For
can
no
pull
reason
forward.
at all. For no reason. You're
Yeah,
asking.
that makes sense. Hit your unlocks on your car. Aaron, I don't know why you'd want to do a good deed and not help me try to just get everybody out of here in a safe area.
You started yelling at me on the bad deal right off the bat, so
Apparently, you don't know what it's like to do this job.
I don't want to.
I get that, but
That's what
I'm trying to make it safe for everybody showing up here, so we're not on railroad
You
tracks
need
and
to get
stuff.
the chip off your shoulder, pal. There's no reason to be rude.
Oh no, listen, time can kill somebody. You understand that?
I'm not mad. Why are you?
I'm not mad.
Why you keep yelling at me though?
I'm not yelling.
Not right now.
Time can kill somebody. A matter of seconds can kill somebody.
I
There's
have
a
no
train.
idea what happened to him, no more than you do.
I understand that. I'm trying to get people off the railroad tracks.
And I'm trying to go home. I just want to help the
Then
guy.
just help me get to the end of
I don't owe you anything. I don't know what your problem is.
My problem is
Guess what? I'm clear, right?
My
I've lived here my entire life. I want your name, your card.
It's Billy White. My badge number's 429.
Because there'll be a complaint filed. I guarantee you.
You know what? If you're going to file a complaint, we'll just charge you. Stay in there.
Officer White admits that he is only charging Mr. Flanagan because he intends to file a complaint against him. When a police officer arrests a citizen for exercising his First Amendment freedom of speech, rather than because the individual actually committed a crime, it is called a retaliatory arrest. The First Amendment prohibits government officials, like police officers, from retaliating against citizens for exercising their First Amendment rights. However, the Constitution itself does not provide any recourse for an individual who has their rights violated by a government official. The Civil Rights Act of 1871 is a federal statute found in Section 1983 of Title 42 of the United States Code. This statute allows individuals to sue government officials for violating their constitutional rights under the color of law. A government official acts under the color of law when they act in their official capacity, such as when a police officer arrests a citizen. In the 2019 case of Nieves versus Bartlett, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that to succeed in a 1983 claim, the arrested individual must not only prove that they were arrested in retaliation for protected speech, but also that the officer did not have probable cause for the arrest. While it is often challenging for an individual who sues a police officer for a retaliatory arrest to prove that the arrest was indirect retaliation for exercising a protected right, in this situation, Officer White admits multiple times that he is only arresting Mr. Flanagan because he is filing a complaint. Likewise, as we discussed earlier in this episode, Officer White did not have probable cause to arrest Mr. Flanagan because he had not committed any crimes. Under these circumstances, Mr. Flanagan should have a strong case for a Section 1983 claim.
We'll give you something. We'll give you something to file a complaint on. Transport this one to the station. He's gonna run his mouth and want to file a complaint. I'll give him something to file his complaint on. You can go to the station and bond him out.
Mr. Flanagan was taken to the local police department and essentially forced to listen to Officer White try to explain his actions. Once Officer White realized that he wasn't going to convince Mr. Flanagan that he was wrong, he released Mr. Flanagan. A few days after the encounter, Mr. Flanagan made a public records request for the body camera footage, which prompted Centralia Police Chief Greg Dodson to email the other city leaders informing them that he was going to release a statement with the video and warning them that they would likely endure criticism from the, quote, keyboard warriors. The following day, it was announced that Officer White would be suspended for 5 days and lose his field training officer status, along with being required to attend additional training for sensitivity and anger management. On December 10th, 2020, Mr. Flanagan filed a pro se Section 1983 lawsuit against Officer White, Chief Dodson, and the city of Centralia. The lawsuit is still ongoing. Overall, Officer White and the Centralia Police Department get an F for failing to employ any measure of de-escalation, forcing Mr. Flanagan to identify himself when he had committed no crimes, and effectuating a retaliatory arrest in the absence of criminal activity. This is yet another example of an officer who set aside the legality of the situation because his ego was fractured. Officer White blatantly conducted an illegal arrest, and all of the officers involved allowed it to happen. Nothing Officer White did was truly in the interest of safety, and this interaction could have ended with the citizen getting a potentially injured man the help he needed and moving on. The misconception that officers have to identify everyone they come into contact with is rampant among the ranks of law enforcement, and the fact that Officer White was serving as a training officer is a clear indicator of why this is such a prevalent issue. Many of the other officers who responded to this interaction were likely trained by Officer White and were probably operating under the very same misconceptions. The department's response was far from adequate, especially considering that this is not the first time Officer White's reckless behavior has ended up in the headlines. In November of 2018, Officer White crashed his patrol vehicle into an unsuspecting student at a local high school while investigating a possible bomb threat. You can find a link to that encounter in the description below. Once again, the department is setting the precedent that officers who commit blatant acts of misconduct will be allowed to continue serving on the force, and this pattern of departments refusing to hold their officers accountable has to end. Mr. Flanagan gets an A+ for maintaining a respectable balance between asserting his rights and complying with the officer's commands, not allowing Officer White to intimidate him, and for following up this interaction with the proper legal action. At no point did Mr. Flanagan commit any crimes, and he was well within his rights to refuse to identify himself. There should never be a circumstance where a citizen ends up arrested for trying to help someone, and this is the second interaction on this channel where this has happened because a witness did not want to identify themselves. Mr. Flanagan's arrest was nothing short of retaliatory, and I have no doubt that he will fare well in the courtroom, even without representation. I commend Mr. Flanagan for having the courage and conviction to stand up for his rights and file a lawsuit. Be sure to give your support to the Southern Illinois Public Observer for sharing this story. You can find a link to his channel in the description below. Let us know if there's an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the ATA Patreon page for more police interaction content.
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers implicit bias, Florida driver's license laws, and constitutional rights for non-citizens, and is brought to us by WTFB 9. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Before we dive into the interaction, I would like to invite you all to check out the ATA Patreon page, where you can find ad-free, uncensored, and exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And right now, we're offering a limited-time 1-year membership with 2 months completely free. On February 3rd, 2019, in Oviedo, Florida, Officer Scott Mosley of the Oviedo Police Department pulled over 20-year-old Turkish national and English student Dogyakin Kaynak for allegedly driving in an aggressive manner and speeding. When Officer Mosley put on his lights in an attempt to pull the vehicle over, Mr. Kaynak did not stop until Officer Mosley motioned for him to pull over. Once Mr. Kaynak pulled over, Officer Mosley ordered him to pull the vehicle forward to make room for his police SUV, but Mr. Kaynak did not move his car.
Do you speak English? I am English student. How did you get a driver's license if you don't speak English? Please. Do you have a driver's license? Yeah, I'm valid. Give it to me. I am well late. I'm good. I don't care. You're speeding. Yeah, I'm good, sucker. I don't care where you're going. You don't have a Florida driver's license? No. Why are you driving here? I am English. You cannot drive here if you don't have a license in the United States of America. Yeah. Why are you driving? Huh? What language do you speak? Turkish. Why are you driving? Why? You don't have a license. This is not America. This is Turkey. Yeah. Sure. Did you see me behind you? Excuse me? Did you see me behind you? Yeah. Why did you not stop? I don't understand. Yeah, that's why you should not be driving in America when you don't know what it means when a cop is behind you with their lights on. I am sorry, I don't.
Despite the fact that he had no knowledge about Mr. Kynek's qualifications for driving experience, or driving abilities, Officer Mosley tells Mr. Kynek that he should not be driving in America if he does not know what it means when a police officer turns their cruiser's lights on. As this statement does not have a legal basis and is purely Officer Mosley's opinion, this assumption may have been a manifestation of an implicit bias against foreign drivers. Implicit bias is defined as the attitudes or stereotypes that unconsciously affect an individual's interpretation of a situation and their actions based on that interpretation. This means that individuals are often unaware that they even have these biased associations, let alone that they act in discriminatory ways because of them. Psychologists Mahzarin Banaji and Anthony Greenwald coined the term implicit bias in their 1995 article published in the scholarly journal Psychological Review. In this article, the psychologists argued that an individual's social behavior is greatly influenced by unconscious attitudes and stereotypes stemming from their past experiences. Many studies have shown that police officers' implicit biases unconsciously affect their treatment of the individuals they encounter in the course of duty. For example, in a 2016 article in the Journal of Criminal Justice, researchers Lori Friedella and Hai-Yong Lim analyzed police reports to determine that, consistent with an implicit bias perspective, police were more likely to use electronic control devices over lower-level restraint methods on African American suspects than they were on Caucasian suspects. While much of the research and discussion of implicit bias is focused on racial stereotypes and associations, individuals can have implicit biases based on non-racial factors, such as gender, religion, sexual orientation, and, in this situation, nationality. Based on the broad array of evidence that suggests implicit biases impact policing decisions, Officer Mosley's assumption that Mr. Kynek was unqualified to drive in America may have stemmed from unconscious stereotypes based on his experience with foreign drivers in the past.
I don't know. That's the problem. That's the problem. What? Open here. Let me see that. You are not allowed to drive in America if you don't know our laws and you do not have an American license. I was behind you with my lights on and you did not even stop. gerçekten özür dilerim. Bilmiyorum.
Care if you did not know, that is the problem. That is why you have to have an American license so you know our laws. You are not allowed to drive in this country if you do not know this country's laws.
While Officer Mosley informs Mr. Kynick that he is not allowed to drive in America if he does not have an American license, this statement does not comport with Florida's motor vehicle laws. Section 322.04 of the Florida statute states that a non-resident who is at least 18 years of age and who has in his or her immediate possession a valid non-commercial driver's license issued in his or her home state or country is generally exempt from the requirement to obtain a driver's license to operate a motor vehicle in Florida. Although Section 322.031 of the Florida statutes creates exceptions for non-residents who work in the state or enroll their children into Florida public schools. Section 322.01 defines a resident as a person who has his or her principal place of domicile in the state for more than 6 consecutive months, has registered to vote, has made a statement of domicile, or has filed for homestead tax exemption on property in Florida. This means that non-residents, including foreign nationals who move to Florida, are allowed to drive using their foreign driver's license for the first 6 months they are living in the state, as they will be considered a non-resident during that time. Once an individual has been in Florida for 6 months, they are legally considered a resident and must obtain a Florida driver's license in order to drive in the state. This is why tourists from Mexico or Canada can drive into the United States for a period of time without having to acquire a U.S. driver's license. Although Mr. Kynick may have been driving illegally if he had been in Florida for more than 6 months, Officer Mosley's blanket statement that you cannot drive in America without an American driver's license was completely inaccurate.
Yeteri kadar biliyorum.
No, you don't. Let me see. Give me that. Give me your phone. Phone. You do not know enough. If you do not know that a police officer driving behind you means you should stop, that means you do not know enough to drive in this country. You are breaking the law. Do you have the registration? Vehicle registration?
Here. My passport.
Whose car is this?
My cousin.
Are they home?
Yeah.
Call them. 31, can I get another unit? Batuhan is your cousin?
Alo. Alo.
Tell him to come here. Tell him to come here, okay? How far, do you know how long he's gonna be? How long?
Yeah.
He's coming right now? Okay. Alright, can you come out for me? Can you come out? Can you step out? Come out?
I am stuck here.
Okay, just come over there to talk.
So?
Farther. I don't want to get hit. Alright. How long have you been in the country? Come over here more. Come over here.
How long? I am 5 November coming here.
Huh?
5 November coming here.
Officer Mosley asks Mr. Kynick how long he has been in the country, which was a potentially incriminating question considering that Mr. Kynick would be violating the law by driving without a Florida license if he had been in the state for more than 6 consecutive months. It is well established through U.S. Supreme Court decisions dating as far back as the 1800s that the majority of constitutional rights, including the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, apply to any individual who is on U.S. soil, regardless of their citizenship or immigration status. In these decisions, the Supreme Court parsed the specific constitutional language used to determine the framers' intent. For example, in the 1886 case of Yiquo versus Hopkins, the court concluded that the 14th Amendment is not confined to the protection of citizens, as it states, quote, "Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. These provisions are universal in their application to all persons within the territorial jurisdiction, without regard to any differences of race, of color, or of nationality. And the equal protection of the laws is a pledge of the protection of equal laws. 10 years later, the court reached the same conclusion about the Fifth Amendment, which also extends its protections to any person. In the 1896 case of Wong Ling versus United States, the court determined that the term person, used in the Fifth Amendment, is broad enough to include any and every human being within the jurisdiction of the Republic. Just as they are required to follow the laws of the country they are residing within, a resident, alien-born, is entitled to the same protection under the laws that a citizen is entitled to. Therefore, as a Turkish citizen on American soil, Mr. Kaynak possesses the same Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination as an American citizen, and could have invoked this right to refuse to answer Officer Mosley's questions.
So I am English student, I'm soccer, play soccer, professional soccer. How long have you lived here? Here. How long? 1 month, 1 year? No, 3 months. You've been here 3 months? Yeah. Okay. Do you drive this car a lot? Do you drive it a lot? Many times? Yeah. You drive many times? I know my drive lesson. I don't know. License. 6 months and finish. And I may go to my country and finish. So he's your cousin? Yeah. Cousin? Yeah. Okay. You're not allowed to drive here. You cannot drive here without a license. An American license is required, necessary for you to drive here.
Even though Mr. Kaynak had not violated Florida law, Officer Mosley arrested him for driving without a valid license, which is a second-degree misdemeanor in Florida. Mr. Kaynak was charged in the Seminole County Circuit Court on February 4th, 2019, but prosecutors dismissed the criminal charge on February 11th, presumably after determining that there was no legal basis for Mr. Kaynak's arrest. The Oviedo PD conducted an internal review of the traffic stop and initially found that Officer Mosley violated the department's policy requiring police officers to know Florida laws and regulations. However, this finding was reversed after a hearing, where it was determined that a training deficiency may have contributed to the wrongful arrest. In December 2019, Officer Mosley was suspended for 12 hours without pay due to his, quote, unprofessional and demeaning conduct towards Mr. Kaynak. It is unclear whether Mr. Kaynak will be pursuing legal action for his wrongful arrest. Overall, Officer Mosley gets an F for maintaining a rude and condescending demeanor throughout the interaction, displaying a fundamental misunderstanding of Florida's motor vehicle laws, and for wrongfully arresting Mr. Kaynak for a minor traffic violation. Although implicit bias is inherently perpetrated through subconscious actions and intent, Officer Mosley's statements were nothing short of unprofessional and inflammatory, and much of his conduct was arbitrarily uncalled for, regardless of whatever uncontrollable biases may have been in play. Officer Mosley's ignorance of the law largely dictated the outcome of this encounter, and the discretionary decisions the officer made were wholly unreasonable. Instead of being patient, Officer Mosley chose to effectuate an arrest out of convenience rather than in the name of justice, and did so knowing that Mr. Kaynak's cousin was on the way to sort out the issue. The fact that Officer Mosley was able to circumvent punishment for his lack of knowledge regarding Florida's driving laws reflects the growing consensus that officer accountability is a prevalent problem within America's policing system. And I suspect that a union likely played a role in absolving him from being held responsible for his actions, given that the department initially concluded that he violated departmental policy. Officer Mosley's hearing and subsequent reversal highlight yet another aspect of the accountability issue that is not often discussed, and there are many circumstances where departments make a concerted effort to get rid of bad officers, but are blocked by the powerful unions those officers are a member of. This is purely speculation for this interaction in particular, but it is a serious issue on the national scale. There are no simple solutions for all of the problems contained within this one interaction, but there is no doubt that Officer Mosley's conduct was distasteful and contrary to the spirit of American justice. As for Mr. Kaynak, I cannot issue a legitimate grade to an individual who lacks the societal and cultural context to fully understand the civil liberties associated with the Constitution. Unlike the rules of the road, constitutional protections do not operate under a universal framework, and it is unrealistic to expect a foreigner who is temporarily living in the United States to have a deep understanding of how the justice system functions here. Driving, on the other hand, does operate under a universal set of standards, and anyone who has driven in the past would likely require little to no effort to adjust their driving habits to the standards of whatever country they may be traveling in. Very little philosophical and historical context is needed to understand the varying driving laws from country to country, but understanding the civil liberties afforded to citizens and visitors of different countries would require intimate knowledge of the country's history, political landscape, and current state of policing. Mr. Koenig was respectful throughout the encounter and did his best to transcend the language barrier that was hindering the progression of the stop. It was Officer Mosley who operated as the driving force for escalation during the stop, and, despite the language barrier and questionable arrest, Mr. Koenig maintained his composure and was ultimately found to be innocent. Let us know if there's an interaction or legal topic you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the ATA Patreon page for more police interaction content.
Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers recording the police, traffic stops, and officer safety, and was mirrored through the Batosize channel, but originally uploaded by Kizo's Evo's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Let's dive right in and audit the interaction. The details of this encounter are obscure, and the information surrounding this interaction is very limited, but the video exemplifies a common occurrence taking place during a routine traffic stop and offers many teachable moments throughout. The video was originally posted on January 1st, 2016, and features officers from the St. Paul Police Department in St. Paul, Minnesota. It is safe to assume that this video was filmed sometime around the original upload date because one of the officers, which you will see later, Officer Hector Menacarion, joined the St. Paul Police Department in January of 2013 and was promoted to patrol duty in September of 2014, which places the recording of this video sometime between late 2014 and January 1st, 2016. I was unable to locate any information about the driver or either of the passengers of the vehicle, but the contextual clues scattered throughout the video led me to the assumption that they are residents of the St. Paul area.
There you go.
Yeah, when I was looking down, I looked up and I was like going right through the light.
Here, the approaching officer asks the driver if she knows why she was pulled over. This question is often asked by officers conducting a traffic stop as a means of validation. The phrase, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" roughly translates to, "Are you willing to incriminate yourself?" If you choose to answer that question, bear in mind that a detailed response is not necessary and will likely result in incrimination. Another similar question often asked by officers is, "Do you know how fast you are going?" A wise answer to that question is simply yes. Further elaboration is completely unnecessary. The Fifth Amendment guarantees citizens the right to silence, especially from answering incriminating questions. Anything you say at any point during an interaction with the police will likely be used against you in court, and remaining silent as much as possible is always a good decision. Unfortunately, the driver of the vehicle willingly admits that she ran through a red light, thus incriminating herself and providing the officer with sufficient evidence to issue a citation.
What do you mean?
I got myself in it.
Huh?
The reason you're pointing yourself.
Yep, for my safety and your safety.
Well, you're being recorded right now.
Okay, that's good.
I'm not here to hurt you.
All right, good. Thank you.
But I'm asking for my safety. Please put your phone down.
For your safety,
Yes,
put my
you
phone
need to
down.
Put your phone down, please. Just set it down on the seat.
Put it down on your seat.
Yes.
Like that? Is that good?
I want you to set it down face up. I want to make sure you're not calling more people over here that will compromise my safety. Okay, set it down face up. Face up. I want to see the screen the whole time because I want to make sure you're not calling people here.
It's gonna be like this. It's fine like that. Thank you.
236, can I get one more card, please? If you continue not to listen to me, I'm gonna have to take you out of the car.
Hey,
That'll be illegal.
please,
No, it won't.
can you
Yes, it would be.
On a June evening in 1996, Maryland State Trooper David Hughes observed a passenger car speeding down I-95 in Baltimore County. Trooper Hughes stopped the car after a brief pursuit and approached the vehicle, noticing that the driver was trembling and seemed extremely nervous. During the encounter, Trooper Hughes noticed that the front seat passenger, Jerry Lee Wilson, was sweating and also appeared nervous. While the driver was sitting in the driver's seat looking for the rental papers, Trooper Hughes ordered Mr. Wilson out of the car. When Mr. Wilson exited the car, a quantity of drugs fell on the ground, and Mr. Wilson was then arrested and charged with possession. Before trial, Mr. Wilson moved to suppress the evidence, arguing that the trooper's order for him to exit the car constituted unreasonable search and seizure under the Fourth Amendment. After both the Circuit Court and the Court of Special Appeals affirmed Mr. Wilson's motion, the Supreme Court took on the case and reversed the lower two courts' decision, establishing a clear precedent in regards to an officer's authority to order passengers in and out of a vehicle during a traffic stop. The court held that, quote, danger to an officer from a traffic stop is likely to be greater when there are passengers in addition to the driver in the stopped car. We therefore hold that an officer making a traffic stop may order passengers to get out of the car pending the completion of the stop. This ruling solidified the notion that officers may extract passengers from a vehicle under the authority of the inherent detention of the original traffic stop, and that no further suspicion or probable cause is necessary to justify the extraction. Both Justice Stevens and Justice Kennedy dissented from the ruling and warned that such a decision could have a lasting negative impact on the integrity of the Fourth Amendment. Nonetheless, the St. Paul officers are within their authority to order the recording passenger out of the car at any time, and it would not be illegal or a violation of the Fourth Amendment as it is currently interpreted by the Supreme Court.
Why? So I can turn it off and they can do something?
The guy back here is being uncooperative. He keeps pointing his cell phone at me and recording it. So I told him to put it down, face up, so I can see he's not trying to call someone, and he won't do it.
Call someone. Can you give us the ticket? If that's what it's gonna be.
Hand your phone to one of those officers out there.
Nope, I'm not gonna do that.
Babe.
Do you know this guy in the back car?
Yes, it's
I'm
my
just
boyfriend.
recording for my safety and for everyone's safety.
Tell him he doesn't need to do this.
Is there a problem?
But why is there
Do
such
you
an
have some
issue?
body
She
cameras?
has a...
Cameras okay.
On right now.
Okay, so
How many-
why
how
is
many-
there
That's fine, I'm gonna leave it on.
Why is there such a big issue
leave
if he
it on,
has
you
his
can't
phone?
I'm not gonna hand you my property.
And I'm telling you right now, I don't know what you're doing with your phone.
What?
I'm recording.
Until you comply with us, I'm gonna keep asking you, and
I'm
keep going
recording.
down this road.
That's not illegal, officer. That's not illegal.
Okay, well, this right now.
No,
I'm asking
it's
you
not illegal, officer.
because I don't know what you're doing with your phone.
I'm recording. That's what I'm doing.
Because,
I'm recording. That's what I'm doing.
Is this your car?
yes.
Are you a registered owner?
Yeah.
Did you just buy it?
Yeah.
Do I have your permission to just put his phone on?
No, don't. You don't have my permission. No.
This is your car.
The Fourth Amendment protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures, and that right is not relinquished to the driver of the vehicle you are a passenger in. The driver of the vehicle cannot grant the officer the authority to seize the passenger's phone, and by no stretch of legal precedent is the officer's demand for the passenger to surrender their cell phone lawful. Generally, the lawfulness of an officer's orders are considered on a case-by-case basis and subject to a reasonableness test. When an officer issues questionable orders as a safety precaution, courts are to consider whether an objective, reasonable officer would have issued the same order within the same circumstances. It is difficult to imagine a scenario where a court would agree that the recording passenger's actions presented a legitimate safety concern for the officers involved in this interaction, and it is likely that the SPPD officer's orders would be found unlawful in a courtroom.
If you're not up to any no good, there's no
I
problem.
don't
Say
know
no.
what's going
Just tell them
on. Why
no,
is
they
it
don't have
turning into
permission.
this?
Because of his behavior back here.
Why? Because he's videotaping
That's
you?
just a routine traffic stop, and I don't know
What are you afraid of?
He said he's telling you that he is recording
Okay,
you.
but listen to me. Just please listen to what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay, we're
I have
listening.
no idea if he's broadcasting that live, and if he is, that's compromising everyone's safety.
We're not broadcasting it
I don't know
live.
that, okay? And that's why we need to get the phone away from him while the traffic stop is on, and then we'll be good to go from there.
You can't take
We
my
have
phone.
the phone back as soon as we're done. I just don't want that going on because I have no idea who's watching that video right now. I have no idea.
I
You
don't.
understand where I'm
It's
coming
not
from?
illegal for him to record you, though. Is it illegal?
that it's not illegal. But when I told
Okay.
you,
Okay, then, so
our
if
safety
it's
laws.
not illegal, so why is it a problem if it's not illegal?
I just explained to you why. Because I have no idea why you would do that. That's not.
Why?
Because people are
Are you
getting
kidding me?
shot at
You know how many
routine
black
traffic
people are
stops.
getting shot?
He has nothing to do with this. He's
How
just
many?
sitting here.
It's on the news. It's on the news.
Okay, can we
Who got
just
shot today? I don't know.
No.
Right, nobody.
Can we
Well,
please?
I want to keep it that way. I want to keep it that way.
We're just trying to do a job, bro.
Can you guys relax?
I'm gonna need.
He's not.
I'm gonna need the badge numbers of everyone.
I know, and he's not being disrespectful to you either. He's saying that he wants to record.
Right, you see the red light?
Yeah.
No.
You see the red light?
Can I turn around and look?
Go ahead, man.
This is so annoying. This is exactly what people are talking
Okay. What's that?
No one is over that's recording you.
Okay, and I wanna. Is there a problem with me filming?
Well, why is your issue with him filming it? It's not illegal. You just said
But it's not illegal.
Incoming call.
You
Press
just said it's not illegal. So why does it matter?
I'm not calling anyone. You can see that. You can see that
It's
too.
gonna work out right here.
Look, I'm not calling anyone.
I don't have a clue how your phone works, bro.
This is Galaxy S6
I
Edge.
don't have a Galaxy X6, alright, man? I don't have that.
This is a video function.
Okay, that's good. You don't know how your phone
You can
works.
stream video. That's
Right?
what
You
he's
can make
trying
up
to
an app.
explain.
Hey, you can make up an app, right?
Okay.
You know how technology works, right?
Yeah, I do. What's your name?
Please just go.
Officer Menacarinos right there.
And badge number?
371.
Your name and badge number?
I'll give you my card when we're done with the
Okay, I appreciate it.
Okay?
They were supposed to send my license plate in the mail.
Making a big deal about this phone.
3 weeks after I got
Those are
the
you.
car, and they never gave it to
Well,
me.
this is my right.
And I was
I'm
just
gonna protect my rights, sir.
I'm just letting you know, man. You're clearly misinformed.
In 2017, Missouri District Judge Nanette Lowry issued a controversial and widely misinterpreted ruling in the case of Atkins v. Knight, which would later be affirmed by the Eighth Circuit Court. In that case, the judge cited a previous ruling from the 2004 Eighth Circuit case of Rice v. Kemper, saying, quote, "Citizens have no constitutional right to videotape any public proceedings they wish to." This statement prompted local CBS affiliate KRCG to publish an article which inaccurately interpreted the ruling as declaring that citizens do not have the right to record public officials at all. This article was met with significant backlash from the National Press Photographers Association and other legal scholars for misrepresenting the context of the ruling. Shortly after the publication of the KRCG article, several law enforcement officers began to use the ruling to deter citizens from filming them without proper understanding of either the Atkins case or the Rice case. A closer look at each case reveals that they are not referring to a right to record public officials in any capacity, but more so the time, place, and manner restrictions which apply to that right. Given that the language of the Atkins case is somewhat ambiguous and unclear, it is likely that qualified immunity would play a significant role in an officer's authority to demand citizens to stop recording them. However, the St. Paul Police Department's policy on recording police interactions, which was ironically revised around the time of this encounter, is very clear that citizens are within their rights to record public officials. Not only is the recording passenger within their constitutional rights to record this interaction, but the department's policy offers an additional layer of protection against these officers' actions.
I'm gonna protect my rights.
But is it illegal for him to videotape?
No, but the officer explained to you.
But if it's not illegal, then you can't ask
They
someone
think
to
we're
do
not
something
educated. That's the
if it's
problem.
not illegal.
You can ask
They think we're not educated.
Okay, but just because you ask somebody to do it doesn't mean that they have to if it's not illegal. It's not illegal, right?
We're not going to debate it with you.
Exactly. We're not going to debate. He's not going to give you his phone because it's his property and you guys don't have a reason to take him out of the car. He didn't do anything to you.
Yep. When they touch me, it's gonna be a lawsuit.
Why?
That's
For
what's gonna
what?
happen.
We can remove all the passengers from the
That's what's gonna happen.
For what
feel
though?
like we need to.
For the,
Because that's the law.
why would you feel like you had a need to? Because he was videotaping?
Because ma'am, normal traffic stops is not going to.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Nobody's trying to attack you guys. I don't understand what you're talking about. So it's illegal for me to hold my phone? Yeah, we're watching the same news, but you're watching and it's
officer eventually allows the vehicle and its occupants to leave the scene without issuing a citation and without further incident. I was unable to locate any more details about this encounter. Overall, the officers of the St. Paul Police Department get an F for attempting to infringe upon a civilian's right to record public officials, weaponizing safety concerns to appease their ego, and displaying a general lack of education in regards to First Amendment rights and department policy. Officers often abuse the legal leeway that safety precautions offer, and it is not uncommon for the justice system to give officers the benefit of the doubt. But the officers involved in this interaction displayed a fundamental misunderstanding and complete disregard for the basic tenets of the rights protected under the First Amendment, and no respectable court could justify their actions. It is disheartening that even in this new age of police accountability, ushered in by a modern technological revolution, officers are still undereducated on the limits of their authority, despite the boundless information and unending resources available to them. The driver and passengers of this interaction get an A-, because although they did exercise their rights without being violent or vulgar, and did not allow the officer to intimidate them into submission, the occupants of the vehicle failed to exercise their right to silence, and the driver openly admitted to committing a crime. I commend the recording passenger for questioning the legality of the officer's orders and refusing to stop recording despite being threatened and compelled to surrender his rights. Recording interactions is not always enough to ensure the safety of everyone involved in a police encounter, but it is very likely that this interaction would have rendered a different result had the passenger complied with the officer's orders. This interaction expertly highlights the importance of maintaining a balance between exercising your rights and complying with orders issued by members of law enforcement. Let us know if there's a legal topic or interaction you would like us to cover in the comments below.
So what I'm doing here is I got this camera here going with a blue filter on it.
Episodes. Thank you for watching.
And I got this one going up on the roof of the car here for the rest of this video, just to write out the other. It looks like this one's only got 5 or 10 minutes left too, so just letting you know.
It hits a smart center stage and is crushed by a baby grand piano.
Exactly, man.
Welcome to What If the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers disorderly conduct, constitutional rights, and constitutional awareness, and is brought to us by Don'tComply.com's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. Sometime around June 25th, 2013, blogger and Second Amendment activist Zach Horton, who writes under the pseudonym Murdoch Fitzgotti, was planning to open carry his long rifle through his neighborhood in Little Elm, Texas. Mr. Horton contacted the Little Elm Police Department to inform them that he would be exercising his Second Amendment rights in case they received any calls about his activity. Soon after placing the call, Sergeant John Samples and Officer Christopher Nordman came to Mr. Horton's office to discuss his plans.
Hey, afternoon. How you doing? Hey, good to meet you, Mr. Horton. Yes. All right. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How about you?
Excellent.
What's going on today, buddy?
Oh, we're just doing a normal Second Amendment exercise. We're going to walk around the neighborhood with my rifle slung over my back, pointed down with a chamber flag in the chamber.
What are we attempting to achieve here?
We're helping to show the general public that it's a perfectly legal activity in the state of Texas to open carry long guns.
And you think that your display is going to achieve that?
It definitely will. Because as my wife. So at the time that people that may not understand that it's a legal activity call into, say they moved here from New York and they come and call the 911 and they get a dispatcher and says, hey, there's a guy walking with a gun.
I guess.
You know, wouldn't the simple dialogue be, wouldn't the dialogue be, you know, well, is he wielding around? Is he threatening anyone with it? No, he's not. Okay, well, that's perfectly legal in Texas. If you want to call in about that, maybe call the non-emergency number or something of that
Have you
matter.
lived in the community?
I'm sorry?
How long have you lived in the community?
We've been here a couple of years.
Okay.
Hey, puppy dog.
Well, as you know, good afternoon, ma'am.
Over there.
Come on, girls.
Well, as you know, our community is one of the safer communities in North Texas.
Well, yeah. Go inside. Go inside.
As the safest in Texas with a population over 25,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So hold on. What I'm trying to say is we didn't achieve that by everybody showing their guns walking around the streets in order to do that. Okay. And I don't believe that you doing that is gonna achieve that.
in the first month that we lived here, our house was broken into, and
And I was the one that took the report.
yeah, the back door got kicked wide open, and you know, so it's not the safest neighborhood in my eyes because I've been a victim of those crimes. And you know, if more people were walking around displaying their Second Amendment rights to open carry long guns, then maybe there wouldn't be little hoodlums walking
I
around.
believe Officer Nordman has already explained the disorderly conduct law.
Okay. Now,
Has he?
now, are you going to say that I calculated to cause alarm by walking with it slung to my back in a proper?
We're giving you forewarning that it's going to cause an alarm.
Section 23 of the Texas State Constitution's Bill of Rights upholds the Second Amendment right to bear arms, but also empowers the legislature of Texas to regulate how citizens may exercise that right. Texas has several laws specifically pertaining to the use and carrying of firearms, including laws that prohibit guns in certain areas and dictate how they may be displayed in others. The law that the Little Elm officers are referring to is Texas Penal Code 42.01, which is Texas's disorderly conduct statute. Subsection 8 of that code states that a person commits an offense if he intentionally or knowingly displays a firearm or other deadly weapon in a public place in a manner calculated to alarm. The officers are hinging their argument on the idea that any display of a firearm may cause alarm. And because Mr.